All right, yo, welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. What a horrible start. I don't know how else to put it, but before we get into it, hey guys, remember to like and subscribe to the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. You probably have a lot to say, but Victor, how you doing?
As good as it's gonna get, man. Uh, obviously, I'm heartbroken over this past weekend. We haven't had a bad start like that since 2014, in over a decade. But maybe this is what we need, a little wake up for the Mets to get their season back in order. Because if you guys recall, 2 years ago, the Atlanta Braves didn't go off to a hard start either, and they ended up coming back, winning the division that year. Um, and so this is just something that we're gonna have to get not used to as Mets fans, but we're gonna have to also learn to channel our feelings and emotions because it's not the end of the world right now, and we shouldn't be acting that way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Overall, not happy about it. Not really excited. We were so excited for the start of the season. Um, quote unquote, great spring training, and this is for all those guys that worry about spring training numbers, about people doing well, people not doing well. Spring training doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Spring training doesn't mean a thing. Severino looked lights out and in spring training, and he came out and had a mediocre game. He didn't have a bad game. He didn't have a good game. So, but before we get into all that, before we get into all disappointments, let's go get into it. Let's get into our new format, and we're gonna review the series previous, right?
Well, yeah.
So I'm just good.
We get into it, though, I will say that spring training does matter for one thing. It does matter for batters to start to get hot, to start getting to the groove of things. And we saw that after the series. It didn't seem like batters started getting into or the batters that were hot, kind of stayed with their confidence level up. But guys like Francisco Lindor didn't wake up from spring training, and he still has struggled to get back into the groove of things. But yeah, I mean, it only matters so much, but that's
It,
just
it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't really matter because Alonso didn't have a great spring either, and he came out blazing. He's fine. So, at the end of the day, these are major league hitters. Might matter for the young guys coming up, like a Beatty. Beatty had to do well in the spring to actually get a chance. But for these veterans, it to me it doesn't matter because Alonso didn't have a great spring and he looked good. Marte didn't have a great spring and he looked good. So, so at the end of the day, we already know with Lindor, he's a notorious slow starter. That's one of the biggest frustrations was with Lindor. But again, let's get back into it. Let's get into the series. We'll break down what everybody did. Nimmo, we'll start at the top of the lineup. Nimmo went um, one for a lot, right? He didn't do much, and he had five strikeouts in the three games. That's I don't know about y'all, but that's unlike Nimmo and unlike leadoff hitter, right? And, five strikeouts. Lindor, he went 0 for 4, 1 for 5, and 0 for 3 with a walk and two Ks. But we saw the games. Lindor had some tough luck. He hit some balls hard, and right. Sometimes not right at guys, but the guys made some great plays. Especially Terang made a couple plays on Lindor. Alonso went um, 4 for 11 for the series with a home run, RBI, and a run. And so like I said, he was doing fine. McNeil. He's still not awake. Oh, 1 for 11. The whole series. We got to talk about him batting cleanup. That experiment's done. I don't care when we're waiting for JD, but that experiment's done. Marte, we talked about him. 1 for 4 in the first game. One for 3 in the second game. He supplied that home run. And I mean, 1 for 3 in the first game with that home run. And 1 for 3 in the second game with 2 runs, 2 walks. He's off to a hot start. And then Alvarez, another guy, started off slow with an 0 for 3 opening night, but then went 5 for 7 with a home run and 3 RBIs, a couple walks. He had a good start. Beatty, kind of a wish-washy start, right? He went 0 for 3 the first game. Obviously, 1 for 1 with a big pinch hit home run in the second game, and then 1 for 4 with 2 Ks today. And then Taylor didn't look too bad in his 2 games. He only came in 2 games, yesterday and today. 0 for 3 yesterday, but 1 for 3, an RBI and a walk today. And Bader, opening night and yesterday, 1 for 4 and an 0 for 3 with 2 Ks. So not much production there. And then we got Stewart and Narvaez that round up the rest of the lineup for this weekend, with both of them going overs when Stewart getting a walk in one of the games. But with that breakdown, what do you think? What are your concerns? What do you think?
Well, going back to the top, my initial concerns were with Brandon Nimmo. I said last time that he was going to be our make or break guy. He's going to basically win us the games. If he wasn't going to be able to get off to a hot start, then we weren't going to be able to win ball games. And we saw that a little bit of that translate, where he was put into some positions and struck out a lot. And it makes me wonder if he is thinking back to last year and starts to think of changing up his game, like we talked about, and being more of a home run hitter than that eye at the plate kind of guy that we knew him to be. Which got him the big contract in his walk year. And just thinking about how he was kind of approaching those at bats, like it seemed like he was swinging a lot at things outside of the zone, and watching things go by sometimes in the zone. And so I'm not concerned yet about Nimmo. It's just really stinks to see him go, you know, horrible, to have a horrible start to the season, because it's just, I hope that he's not trying to change anything for all the fans talking to him, or all the hype behind him hitting 25 home runs last year. But that's something that he's going to have to work out, because who else is going to hit leadoff? We obviously saw Francisco Lindor hit the ball hard, and he did well, but I don't think we had any stolen bases this series. And if we did, then it didn't come from Francisco Lindor. And that's why we wanted him up at leadoff, was because he would be able to steal bases. And we need someone that will actually steal bases, because we saw that's what lost us the game today on Sunday. Was the Brewers stole a whole lot of bags, and I don't want to blame that on Alvarez either, because a lot of that was McGill, or that was just good baseball by the Brewers. They timed their steals well, and there's nothing that you can do about it, because McGill held runners well and he threw out I can't forget who, I forget who in the
Frelick.
first. Kralik, yeah, and there, and so he held batters, or runners, um, but all that to be said, we need someone that'll steal bases at the top of the lineup, and it doesn't seem like either of those guys. So what Nimmo needs to do is get back on base. He needs to focus less on the power and focus on getting on base, because that's what's gonna win us some ball games.
Yeah, no, for sure. The guy that stood out for me obviously is Alvarez. He had, actually two guys, Alvarez and Marte stood out to me. These couple of games, and um, and going to the concerns, it is Nimmo, because Nimmo, um, the whole reason he's batting leadoff is to get on base, right? Obviously he's not going to steal bases. That's not who he is, and everybody is talking to me about Nimmo being a leadoff guy because he gets on base, and I couldn't argue with that. But when you have 5 Ks, 5 strikeouts, that's a little concerning. It's not like let's put it against Lindor's numbers, and they had similar numbers. The difference is 5 Ks to one, right? And when you don't put the ball in play, things don't happen. And so and I think Gary was the one that said it on when we were watching the game, is that since June 1st of last year, Nimmo had changed his approach, and trying to hit the home runs and stuff, and who knows, he might be a different guy now, and he's no longer the leadoff hitter that we want personally, and or need, because you're right. Without the guys getting on base, what's Alonso going to do?
Yeah.
Hit one, home runs, and we need 2 3 run home runs, right? We don't need just a single home run, and that's it. We need guys on base, and nobody's getting on base for Alonso. And my other concern, which I don't understand, you know why the Mets are doing this, but this whole, I get why people said it might not be a bad idea for McNeil to be at protecting Pete, but I think that experiment is over.
Yeah, and it's just so frustrating because I don't know if it would have been such a bad experiment if McNeil actually hit the ball like he was supposed to, because he was in a position to drive in some runs with not even just with not even a bloop or a blast. I mean, with just a bloop, he could have gotten the ball game tied a couple of times. He was put in a position to win the ball game a bunch, and that's what the four hitter is often gonna be in a position of is to win ball games, and he just didn't execute. Like McNeil, every time he came to the plate, I was just disappointed. Like I knew with 2 outs, it wasn't going to end well for the Mets because I don't know. It seems like this shift has kind of beaten him more than it's supposed to, because now he's not able to or without the shift, he's not able to really track his hits anymore. But I don't know. It's just
But I don't know if that's the case, because to be honest with you, he was fly ball happy this series, just like where he was struggling in 2021. It was all because he was hitting the ball in the air too much. It was, there was no line drives, no
yeah.
line drives. McNeil's a line drive guy. He'll knock in 10 to 15 home runs a year, but those are, um, those aren't. That's not his game. His game is line drives, and you're not seeing line drives. You're seeing pop ups.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It seems like he's not even trying to place his hits anymore, because that's what made him so good was he was able to place the hits, and now it just seems like he's swinging for the fences, or it seems like he's just trying to swing to hit the ball anywhere he chooses, and that's not the kind of guy he is. And so, if like we talked about at the beginning of the season, or it is the beginning of the season, but in the preseason, if these guys aren't performing to their level of where they're supposed to, then this Mets team is going to be exactly what we saw, mediocre and not run producing. Uh, because, like we said, we left how many runners stranded today in Sunday's game? We left the bases loaded, I think, at least twice in this series, and that just can't happen. I understand the shootouts, but that can't happen because we saw a Brewers team that was um, I think if you could say that they're a little more talented than the Mets team, but when they got the opportunity to score, they took the opportunity. You had guys that are recording their first major league hits, um, driving in runs for that opportunity. And these guys are experienced on the Mets team, and they need to be able to drive in runs to at least get us close within the game, because we knew that going into this, our pitching wasn't going to be able to keep us afloat, and that we were going to have to be um, a hitting team. And it just seems like we're still waking up, like we're not to that level of being able to provide some backup to our pitchers in the bullpen and our starting pitchers.
Yeah, yeah, and we actually didn't touch on the starting pitching. It was the kind of a mixed bag, right? Um, you know, the booth was kind of talking about all the pitchers kind of being they were too hyped up or whatever because they were overthrowing, and so they had mixed results, right? You had guys, Quintana had a decent game. It was a Quintana type game, right? We need the bats to help us out with Quintana. He's not an ace by all means, right? And right now, because he is the opening day start, he's going to be going up against a bunch of aces.
Yeah,
So we do need the bats to come alive for Quintana to do well. Second game, Severino had a mixed bag too. Wasn't a great start, but wasn't a horrible start. But it wasn't the start we were expecting. We are expecting him to come in and keep that hot streak, kind of like what you mentioned earlier from the spring training, and uh, keep us in games. Because if he would have pitch similar to spring training, we would have won that game yesterday, right? Um,
yeah, and it was
and
just sorry. Go ahead.
and McGill, and also mixed bag, right? Again, we got not throwing strikes, and that's what's been plaguing McGill from his whole career so far is that he doesn't throw enough strikes. Walking guys and putting guys on base. Obviously there was a couple of tough luck situations with the catcher interference with Narvaez and Beatty missing the ball. But other than that, those other situations, man, that's McGill not throwing strikes. And seeing a 3-2 count on every batter was ridiculous. Kind of what how we started last year with our guys not going deep enough and our bullpen having to eat some innings. We need the guys to go deep. At least 5 to 6 innings.
Yeah,
And but go ahead.
yeah, and our bullpen ate probably way too many innings this series. Innings that they didn't have to, because Johan Ramirez came in on Sunday and had to eat three of the innings that McGill couldn't finish. And then passed it over to Drew Smith, and he did well for as much as he was out there. But with Severino yesterday, it seemed like he kind of was thrown off from that early error by Zach Short, because after that, that was the first run that scored, and that inning kind of just blew up after that. And then after that, we saw everything that transpired. But once you gave Rys Hoskins the ability to drive in those runs, you gave him that confidence after everything that happened on Friday, to kind of beat up on the Mets some more. But one more thing on McGill is that you saw, I think he requested an MRI scan this after his start today, and so I'm just hoping that he's all right, that he can come back healthy for his next start. But we'll see. But this is the same McGill that we've expected and we've always known to be one that lacks control and that is going to get himself into tough situations. And it makes me question if David Stearns made the right move. And obviously he did all right in spring, and he's the more experienced player. But Should we have someone else up here? Should we have a Jose Budo up here getting his shot next start instead of sending McGill back out there? And we might see that now that it looks like he could be on the IL for a little bit. But we'll see. Hopefully, everything comes back well with Tyler.
Yeah, we'll see. But you're right. That's one of those things where part of being under such high leverage situations because he's gets himself in these high leverage situations this early on in the season. It's probably why part of what's going on here, and we might see Buto sooner rather than later. And it goes back to the whole thing of you never have enough pitching, and so we'll see. But you mentioned them. Let's get into the who's right part of this podcast. And obviously, you had Nimmo as the breakout star for this series, and I had Alvarez. Um, Obviously, if if we're just going by those two guys, obviously I came out on top. But Marte also had a good series as well. So let me know what you guys think. Who had the best series for the Mets? We can't say any of the pitching, but we can say either Marte or Alvarez kind of had good series for the Mets. So let me know what you think. And as far as the Mets killer, how did we forget? How did we forget about the ex Philly Rys Hoskins?
Oh, I didn't forget about him. I just didn't want to acknowledge him because that's how much of a scumbag that guy is. I don't forget, but he did kill the Mets. And one guy that I do want to mention really quick, give a quick shout out to is Brett Beatty because he came in and he hit a pinch hit home run against the lefty, which is something that he wasn't supposed to do. And although he struck out a few times this series, he still stood out to me in the sense of like he's got his confidence back and he's playing with more passion now. Obviously, he didn't do as well as Alvarez did, but it's nice to see those guys back to back. And I think that dynamic works really well for each other because they kind of feed off of each other in a way. But Alvarez, obviously the star of this series. Marte hit a home run, but it was early and he did great. He had some nice timely runs. He did well, like you said as well. But Alvarez, uh, building up that average, building up that stardom, man, that kid looks good. And even though all those stolen bases counted against him, because I don't think he was able to throw anybody out, all of those throws were on target.
Well, the ones today are on Narvaez. Narvaez was the catcher today.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, hopefully he gets that under control because again, throughout everybody in spring training and the first two games, guys ran on them. So so we'll see again. But yeah, Rys Hoskins coming in hard on McNeil on Friday. Um, Obviously, it was a clean play, but it was on purpose. There's no way around it. Reese meant to do what he did. As a matter of fact, he he stood on the ground because he knew what he was doing, and then walked away without even acknowledging somebody yelling in your ear. You know what I mean? And then started talking once he got behind his teammates. The only thing is, he backed it up the next day with 4 RBIs on the day. And I agree with Ron. The whole Yohan Ramirez came 2 hours too late because Keith said it in the first inning. I believe it was. Keith said, "Hey, first base open," and Ron was like, "Maybe they want to send a message," and they didn't. And he heard us right off the gate. And the whole, I don't care about it being too late. I don't mind Yohan Ramirez throwing at him and sending a message. Obviously, Ramirez is the last pitcher on this in the bullpen because he showed it today that um, he gave up a run in each of the 2 to 3 innings that he came in. So, but I do agree that at least we showed a little feistiness that we've never shown before. But let me know what you think about the whole Rys situation.
Yeah. First of all, like I said, he's a scumbag because obviously he intended to hurt McNeil, and I don't know how that's a legal sliding over the bag like that into a runner's leg. But I do like that the Mets were behind him the whole way. Mendy even challenged the play after that, trying um, to say that was an illegal slide, and that not only shows that this team is united, but it shows that Mendy's got their back because he didn't have to go challenge that play. But it shows McNeil that I've got your back, and that we're a team, and that we got each other no matter what happens. But obviously, the next day it didn't work out. But that's no one's fault. Obviously, we would have liked to see it early, but Severino wasn't going to do it. After his first at bat, um, he wasn't going to do it that time because he was the one that drove in those 2 runs at the beginning of the game, and then um, the next opportunity that they had besides Severino was Johan Ramirez, and I think if Severino wasn't going to do it, I think someone in that Mex bullpen would have tried to do it. And Johan Ramirez just happened to be that guy up, but he's also the last guy on the roster with not much to lose, and so I don't think it mattered to do it at all. But obviously, it hurt to do it later, and it was quite embarrassing, to be honest, to do it that late after he's already scored 4 runs on us. And
Well, honestly, I don't care about that. I know Ronnie and Keith said something to that effect. Obviously, after that, Reese hadn't done anything for the rest of the series after being thrown at. So obviously, he cooled down a little bit after that. So to say that it didn't affect him at all, I don't think that's fully true either because today and the rest of the game yet on yesterday he didn't do much. So but I disagree with you on the sense that Severino should have been the guy to do it, especially with the base open, because like you said, instead of him being on first base, he's the one that knocked in the 2 runs, right? So I do agree with the booth that it should have been in that first inning. If we were going to throw at him, it should have been in that first inning.
yeah, and it should have been, but Severino just didn't seem like he was going to do it. Is what I'm saying. Like it didn't seem like Severino was going to do it, and they it seemed like the fans wanted it to happen, but Severino wasn't going to be that guy. So Yohan Ramirez played the hero in that situation, and got the fans hyped up for for whatever it matters, which obviously it didn't matter at that point. But it is what it is at this point. We're gonna see them at the end of the year. I hope that our seasons go in opposite directions from this point. That we end up skyrocketing after this, and they end up plummeting. Because I kind of found a newfound hatred for the Brewers now that Rys Hoskins on there.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. But yeah, no, they got Rys Hoskins and William Contreras.
Yeah,
So- but all good, all good. The start of the season isn't where we wanted it to be. I want to put this series to bed so we can move on and preview the next series. It wasn't what we wanted the start to be. Obviously, it dampers the excitement that we had coming out of spring training. But I'm not throwing in the towel just yet because of one series. But very disappointing. Lindor is gonna got to wake up earlier than he does, and honestly, my biggest concern is Nimmo. with the 5 strikeouts. That's not a Nimmo like start. It's one thing to have offers, but you're putting the bat on the ball. It's another thing to be striking out, and that for me, that's the biggest concern coming out. My second biggest concern is getting McNeil out of the cleanup. At this point, having him at the cleanup doesn't make sense. And I don't even care when JD comes back. I don't want to see him as a number 5 hitter. So I don't know
Yeah,
about you.
no, that the roster construction or the lineup construction kind of puzzled me this series because we had DJ Stewart batting cleanup the day one, where DJ Stewart should never be batting cleanup in this lineup. We have better guys that are able to bat in that position, and all it does is kill the momentum of the team when you put a batter like that. McNeil, like I said, I think um, if he wakes up, then he could have been that good cleanup hitter. But DJ Stewart just doesn't make sense at cleanup. You need to move Alvarez up into that position until JDM is back and able to take place, because obviously he's able to do the job, not only hitting for power but hitting for average as well. So he's that perfect cleanup hitter in place um, of JDM right now. Um, and this is something that we talked about before, that he could have been the cleanup hitter, the rightful cleanup hitter, if we didn't go out and pick up a DH. But I would like to see something different this series, moving those guys up. And I know it might hurt his pride, but it doesn't matter because he's not doing anything. Move McNeil down, move him down until the 9 hole for all I care right now, because so that he can be a backup or a second leadoff guy for Brandon Nimmo, and to keep the rally going. Because right now he needs to figure it out before he can bat higher in the lineup. Who cares about the pride thing? But Francisco Lindor, like you talked about, he's going to be fine. He talked about it in his interview today that he hit the ball hard. He's not worried about it. He's uh, he's got that confidence still, and he's going to bounce back to be the Francisco Lindor that we saw last year. It's just I'm just glad that he's keeping that confidence so that he can continue to hit the ball hard, and because baseball is half mental, right? So you have to be able to be confident at the plate to be able to hit the ball. And he just got unlucky this series, so he'll be completely fine, like you said.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I know, and that's why I raised the concerns with the strikeouts. That's what concerns me. When Lindor's in a slump, you see it in the strikeouts, right? So so again, that's what's my concern with Nimmo is the strikeouts. That's the concern. Well, before I get into that, hold on, I got something for you, but let's preview the next series. Um, we got Detroit coming in tomorrow. The projected pitchers matched up is Olson and Mania tomorrow, Mize and Hauser on Tuesday, and Scooble and Quintana on Wednesday. Obviously, there's some weather coming in, but again, we see again Quintana matched up with their ace, and so. That's one of the concerns when we have, I was all for it, I for Quintana being our opening day starter, but this is what we get when Quintana's the starter, is that he's going to be going up against better caliber pitchers. And so us scoring runs is actually going to be more important now for Quintana than any other time, because we're going against their ace, and Scooble's a pretty good pitcher. So yeah, I feel confident with Mania. Hopefully he can keep it going. Hopefully he can keep the streak he had in the spring training going. But I think we got the edge on Mania. Mize and Hauser, I think it's a toss up, and obviously Scooble's better than Quintana. And the hot hitters coming in. from the opening weekend is your boy Mark Canna. you
Yeah,
know,
can of corn,
huh?
can of corn.
Yeah, so that's one of the guys. Obviously, see, they had a good series. Canna, Urshela, Carpenter, and Torkelson all had a decent series. Um, so, um, so yeah, that's what do you think? Who do you think is going to be their breakout star and our breakout star? What are your thoughts on the series?
Um, yeah, no, I'm not too concerned about Quintana because he was able to keep us in the game against Freddie Peralta, which is a Cy Young caliber pitcher, and he's going to prove to be that this year, and where he pitched six shutout and was or six innings, one hit, one run ball, and he kept us in the game because uh, at the end of the day, our bats needed to wake up, and that was the concern, and that's going to be the concern all year because we know that we don't have the starting pitching to compete with the other side this year, all the way down 1 through 5. Uh, the other side is probably going to be better unless we get face one of these lower teams, and Quintana can prove that he can keep us in games. But Mania, I think, will get us our first win tomorrow. Hopefully, that he can keep the streak going, like you said. You know how I feel about Hauser. I don't know how how well he's going to do. Maybe he, flips the script from spring training and is able to put it together and get us a win. But like you said, well, it's not going to be because he's pitching shutouts though. It's going to be because the he's keeping us in the game and the bats are able to wake up and keep it or and win us the ball game. But who I think uh the Mets killer this series is going to be is our old friend Javi Baez. The guy. I just think that every time he plays the Mets, he always has this vendetta against us, and I feel like he has good numbers against us. I have to look it up, but um, he seems to hit a lot of home runs when he's playing the Mets. I remember last year when I think we went to Detroit. He hadn't had a home run all year, and all of a sudden he starts hitting home runs against us. And so I can see a lot of the same this year, this time around. Canna, I think, will be silenced a little bit playing back in City Field. Um, and obviously he's a a good hitter, but he's not going to be um, what he has been so far this series or against the White Sox. Because who do the White Sox have pitching for them anymore after they lost Cease? Uh, but um, but yeah, I think Javi Baez can be a real Mets killer this series. But like man, who's going to help us propel to a win, a series win? That's the tough question, and it'll depend on how this roster is constructed. But I'm gonna have to say Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor has been hitting the ball hard. Um, I don't have faith in McNeil anymore because if he would have actually hit the ball well, he could have been that guy that I said. But Francisco Lindor can start rallies. He can get the ball going, and he can get on base at least for Pete to drive in some runs. But I have confidence that he'll wake up this series and start producing for us.
Yeah, no doubt. I actually was thinking of picking Lindor as our guy to kind of break out or have a good series. And but I'm gonna ride the Alvarez train because I think he's gonna keep it going and keep that bat hot and probably do a little bit more damage. As far as the Mex killer, very tempting to pick Canna because it just would be fitting that he comes back and strikes. But I like this kid Carpenter to be the guy that kind of I was between Carpenter and Canna, and I'm thinking that Carpenter's going to have a decent series, but hopefully he'll have the same kind of series like Jackson Churiel did, and they had a decent series, but didn't kill us too much, or at least he didn't personally kill us too much. That's my guy. That's the guy I'm thinking that will be the guy that kind of has a good series for them. But yeah, I like your pick with Lindor because like he said and like I said in the beginning of the pod, he's been hitting the ball hard. I'm not too concerned about his slow start this year as I usually am because I think that he's actually going to wake up a little bit, and I do like your pick, but I do hope that Mania comes through and gives us our first win of the season. And you're right. Quintana did hold his own against Peralta, and wasn't too bad. So it actually gave us a typical Quintana start, right? Keep us in the game and we're gonna need that. We're gonna need that from our guys, right? Our pitchers, right? We need our pitchers to keep us in the games. We just need our bats to be like game two of this series, right? We need big, so put up some points. You look across the league and all these batters are putting up points, right? So got the Dodgers putting up points, the Yankees beating up on the Astros. And all these guys putting up points, scoring runs, and so we need to start scoring some runs.
Yeah,
But
if we want to be the team that is competing for the playoffs, we know how it's going to be done this year, and we've talked about how we have one of the we talent wise, we feel like we have one of the best lineups in the game, and it just matters. It just depends on if they produce. They need to start producing, and not only producing but stringing together runs, building momentum to propel them forward. Because it doesn't happen by getting two out singles. It happens by getting a timely hit to keep the momentum going, to rally and to make sure that the team is being benefited and not just the average. But we have the guys to do it. It's just a matter of time before we all put together and get that kind of that vibe that I don't know um, that kind of reliance, that like trust that you have in your teammate to keep the rally going, because that's where it comes from. If you guys can't trust each other, then there's no point in going out there and playing every day. They have to trust that these guys are going to be able to drive in some runs and not just kill the rally once it happens. So it takes everyone on this team to start hitting from 1 to 9. Maybe not so much once we get down the line, but especially from our front four.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And one thing I do want to put out there is keep an eye on Tyrone Taylor. I think he's gonna take the job from Bader. He's not as good defensively as Bader, but he's defensive enough at that if his bat continues to give us a little bit of life. I'm not. He didn't have an awesome series, but he gave us more life than Bader did.
Yeah.
And so keep an eye on Bader. I mean on Taylor. I think he's primed to trying to take that spot from Bader, and you could see it in his play too.
Yeah.
Um,
At the end of the day, if you're an automatic out when you're up in the plate, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. You're going to be replaced by someone that can play the same position, but is hitting a little bit better. And we saw that this series. He didn't. I don't know if the matchup was wrong, but today he went out there and he took the spot from Bader, and so Bader's got to be careful, man, because I think he relies on that glove too much, and he needs to focus on the bat a little more because the glove's not even going to save him all the time. You know, we saw him have an opportunity to make a stellar play, and he didn't execute. Obviously, it was a hard play, but that's why they picked him up, is to make plays like that, right? To
Yeah,
dive after the
sure.
ball and cover all the center field. And if he can't even do that, then Taylor's knocking at the door.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that. Obviously, our young guys um, started off well down in the minors. We had on Friday or yeah Friday back to back by Gilbert and Acuna, and obviously Vientos. Can always hit AAA hitting. So never thought had a doubt that Vientos would go down and struggle. But if Yentos wants to get better, man, if he cuts down on the strikeouts, that's really what hurt him this spring. Is that it wasn't the power. We knew the power was there. It's the strikeouts, right? And that's what he needs to continue to work on down there. But I think we're gonna end it there. We covered the next series. Gave you who we think is going to lead us into the big series win, and who potentially might hurt us. But before we get out of here, Victor, any last words?
Nah, man, I'm just ready for a win at City Field. Something to encourage me to get over to the ballpark because we gotta wake up, man. We gotta wake up. Those bats gotta wake up, and because the pitching can propel us to win games, but we gotta hit the ball. So, but let's go. Come on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Change the lineup. Get McNeil out of the four hole. Until he shows any life. Send him down in the order. He's not going to care, but we definitely are going to care if he's just popping up balls all the time. So take him out of the four hole. Obviously Nimmo's the other guy we're concerned about. Hopefully, he cuts down those strikeouts. Because that's not Nimmo like. So, but guys, before we get out of here, subscribe, like, and leave me your comments. Let me know what you think. Who do you think is going to be the guy that's going to lead us into the series win next series? Let me know what you think in the comments. So before we get out of here, let's go Mets.
Let's go, Mets.